So far, we're up to episode 4 of Gozyuger, and I'm absolutely loving this. I think that this is a fantastic series so far, and it's really kind of like brought me in. And today's episode, it's all about the Green Ranger and what his wish is about. And it's kind of a nice one because it shows you that you shouldn't literally be the same person all the time. And sometimes things don't really go your way if you're in one particular mindset all the time. And I think that is something that everyone should learn at some point. I also think that he is the oldest ranger at 87 years old, and he looks good for his age. I hope I get his name right, which is Takihara. He has a motto, which is be stoic, sincere, strong, and spirited. And when I kind of saw that, I generally thought back to how I've been in my entire life. And being stoic is fine to some degree, but it can lead, that can really hurt you all the way through life. So having this mindset is okay to some degree, but it's pretty much something that you shouldn't do. All the way through this, he is a stubborn geezer, and that is the nickname that has been given to him. And again, it's more like he can't really deal with foolishness or people being soft, which again is something that some people are and some people aren't. So it's just a weird thing. He finds the ring and he makes a contract wishing that he was a party goer. He was a lot younger back in his youth, which then makes him revert to his younger form. But he does need to eat eggs a lot. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's something big. Eggs seem to be the most powerful thing in the entire world. Yeah, it just helps. Now, there are quite a few parts in this one, and when kind of watching it, I generally liked some of his backstory. But one of the big main points, you see Don Momotaro, which is the PM or Prime Minister of Japan, previously, and then you meet this new guy who has the power of rear soldier. And I love this, like it's just straight into fighting. And I generally thought at the very beginning of all this Sentai, it was going to be each week a Red Ranger would just randomly turn up and fight the main team. But nope, just no in this one. It just seems to be fight anyone who has got a ring just turns up and they just absolutely wipe the floor with them. But one thing with Don Momotaro is he wins. He uses the Time Ranger ring, which one theory I want to put in right now, and I think that is when you defeat whichever ranger comes your way and you take the ring, you will obviously gain that power. Now originally I thought that Don Momotaro would have access to pretty much every single one of the powers because that's literally what the Don brothers' power had. But I feel like if he collects enough rings and he has all these powers, if someone defeats him, then they get all the rings that he's collected. So if he's got 10, then whichever ranger defeats him gets 10 rings. And I think that would be kind of really cool if that actually happened. The Black Ranger, she can't actually transform just yet. We see it in the preview for the next one. So when Don Momotaro says, what would your family do? What happens if I lost you? There's a huge bond that has happened, or that he owes the family a debt, or he's taken her in after something bad has happened. And I really want to see her backstory in the next episode because she's kind of interested me quite a lot in this one. Now, there is comedy in this, and I absolutely love a good comedy in a Sentai if it's done right. And Bouquet is annoyed that her picture of Ryuko has actually been ripped up and she's angry. She wants revenge. I generally thought she would just get another photo, but maybe this means a lot to her. Yeah, she has to get revenge until she actually gets it, which I think is absolutely fun. I can't wait to see when she knows the identity of the Blue Ranger and she's just like, what? It was you all along? Maybe they get together. I have no idea, but I think that would be kind of cool. We have two new grunts, which is the Fire and Blizzard siblings. They're not in it for long. Spoilers, they're not in it for long. The Green Ranger we're going to call Kin because that is literally what's said in the episode and it makes it so much easier for me. But because he wants to be a party person, when he's given the opportunity to actually be a party person, doesn't kind of go well for him. And what can I say? He goes back to being his old self in a young man's body. But yeah, he doesn't really like the fact that people are goofing off and stuff like that. And he realizes that he's made a mistake. But he meets his grandson and he's like, oh God, no, I can't reveal who I am to this person right now. Which, again, spoilers, at the very end, he finds out, kind of, I think. But either way, It just made me laugh to see, like, you're giving this one big chance and then you're kind of going back the same way. What I find interesting is that he talks to his grandson and to find out about his family, how people see him in general, and you kind of think that you would try to move away from that sort of subject rather than like, oh, go on, tell me what you think about my family. What do you think about your grandpa, by the way? But because his grandson at the time doesn't say that he has a dream, Kin gets really angry at him and has a go at him, causing them to kind of fall out. Kin throws away the ring and he doesn't want the contract anymore. Now, I kind of thought about this and I generally think that the contract would keep you locked in. You can't suddenly get rid of it. It doesn't work like that. Could you imagine like later on down the series, something happens and they're like, oh, we don't want these contracts anymore. They are binding until the job is done. That is how I kind of see this. But when Kin starts talking to Tono, it's interesting because he brings up a brand new perspective about this. When Kin is talking about himself, Tono is like, no, your ego is showing. It's not the way that you're thinking of your family. It's your ego that is preventing you from this. And Kin doesn't really like this. And Kin walks out. He's a bit pissed off, but we come to the school. And this is where the majority of the rest of them fight. The monster of the day grabs one of the school kids who wants to party. And that's the entire thing. They all party and it's like disco balls and really weird outfits, which would probably be the best one for like in Japan right now. But this also interferes with them transforming, which again is a kind of cool thing to me. I would say, oh, it stops them from transforming. Why though? It's just clothes. But one thing I did like is when Tono has got the red 50 on his glasses, which means it's the 50th year. I kind of like that little bit of planning there. I generally like that sort of stuff. Kin saves his grandchild. They have this conversation and his grandchild actually has a dream of becoming an artist and that's what he wants to do, but he's kind of scared of his family and what they may say because his grandfather is very stoic and would say it's a foolish dream. We get a transformation with the Green Ranger and a lovely little dance, and then it just kind of jumps into fighting. Then after some bit of fighting, we see the giant robos. The Tiger swords have come in, and when I was watching this, I thought that when Red was swapping out his Tiger sword for like the Blue Ranger, I thought, oh, like they're gonna all be in the same one or he's able to use the abilities. But no, they're kind of just swapping out all the time. And I absolutely love this because it felt like they didn't really know what to do. Like, oh, I want to be in charge. No, I'm gonna fight today. No, I'm gonna fight. And you just see them like all falling out in their clothes as well, not in their Ranger forms, but they just fall out or they just get kicked out. And I absolutely loved it. And you saw them rushing to get back in to score the winning blow. And even though that you see Fire and Blizzard, they aren't really in it for very long. I generally thought they'd have a bigger part in this. But at the very end, we have Kin's grandson actually talking about a lot of stuff, saying that he wants to be an artist. And his father's like, do you know what? My dad was really hard on me. I'm not going to fall into that same trap. And I absolutely like that because it felt like the son can now go to his dad and say, look, I can open up to you. And I feel like that's needed a lot more, in Sentai as well as outside of Sentai. So it was a really nice thing. Kin gives away that he is the grandfather because as he's walking away, his grandson actually watches him and then just you see the kind of outer image. So I'm wondering if he's going to spill the beans much later on, spill the tea and talk to him about it. But yeah, effectively this episode is actually a really good one. It has a lot of kind of good moments so that you know that it's not just kind of rushed. You see a good connection with family and a way that someone can change even when they're almost 90, that they're able to kind of change their ways and become someone else. And it's actually a really nice way of telling this properly. But yeah, I generally really like this. It was a good episode. I'm really liking the series and I can't wait to see more. And we're coming up to episode 5, and now we're getting a full team coming up. So again, it's something that is slightly different and I'm absolutely all here for it. So what are your thoughts? Let me know down below in those comments and let's get a discussion going. And while you're down there, why not hit like and subscribe? I'm trying to reach 21,200 subscribers by the end of May, and I would absolutely love your help and join me on this absolutely amazing journey. And also, if you want, check out the channel membership memberships or the Patreon. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。